So good afternoon and welcome to LGC Pulse. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cynthia Loren. I'm the founder and lead strategist at LGC Africa. We're an Africa-focused advisory business. We work alongside professional service organizations, particularly law firms, who are focused on improving their marketing and business development efforts. LGC Pulse is a free marketing insight session during which we ask invited guests to share their knowledge and insights on what it takes to grow and maintain a successful Africa professional service business. This afternoon, my special guest in the hot seat is Mr. Femi Omere, who joins us all the way from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Femi is a UK qualified barrister and an associate member of the UK's leading, or one of the UK's leading human rights barristers' chambers, Garden Court Chambers in London. He was, up until just last year, the executive director for ALN Academy, a role which he pioneered. This afternoon, Femi will be talking to us about his brand new venture, hosted in Africa, an Afro-centric value exchange community focused on promoting the interconnectivity of Africa and all of her people. I, for one, am very excited to hear about the platform and also to see the live demo, which Femi is going to share later on. So Femi, a very warm welcome to LGC Pulse. Thank you for making time to speak to us this afternoon. Let's kick off.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you.
Welcome. So why don't we, we're going to focus, the session is mainly going to focus on your brand new platform, but I thought it would be really helpful for our audience and also just for myself to have a bit of background on how you came to be doing what you're doing now. So talk to us a little bit about the journey that you took from being a barrister based in London to working in East Africa. You know, what did that look like? What were you doing in terms of work? Was it Africa related, etc.?
So let me just start again and just say thank you so much for this opportunity. It's wonderful what you're doing, and I'm really happy to share with you and have a conversation with you. You see, in terms of my kind of beginning as a professional in the UK, it was, as you said, very much human rights focused, a lot of refugee type law, immigration law, bit of employment, bit of mental health, very much social oriented law, or people's law, if you like. And wonderful experiences and worked with some of the best, and I mean it in that way. First Chambers, Tooks Chambers, which was the chambers of Michael Mansfield QC, and a legendary criminal defense barrister, was there for several years, and then moved on to almost, in a sense, almost a sister organization, Garden Court Chambers, which was probably a larger type of, in the similar ilk of Tooks Chambers, but larger and probably differently organized, but really motoring on, and has become a giant ever since. And it was at that stage as well. And the work there was, at one sense, really dynamic. And as a young barrister, you were able to really get your teeth stuck into very meaty issues, with them going up very quickly. So I'll give you an example of that. My very first case as a pupil barrister, not even as a qualified barrister, was the refugee matter. I saw a point in that particular case, went for it, and 5 years later it ended up in the House of Lords. It was, I talked to my friends who were doing civil law, and they hadn't even touched like the High Court within 5 years, far less the House of Lords. So you had that ability to kind of really get your teeth stuck in, because of the type of law that was or the type of arrangement that was being administered, i.e., pretty much public law. So you go for a decision by the immigration or tribunals, and if there is no right of appeal, then of course you go straight to the High Court. So you had lots of this kind of going on, and really interesting work, a lot focused on Africa kind of countries, because by the nature of the refugee law, there were at the time, Congo, stuff happening in Uganda, Zimbabwe, you name it. And, it was throwing up lots of questions as to what's happening in those countries. And in a sense, my day-to-day work was almost, criticizing what was happening in those states. and without really me seeing any solution to what I was doing. So I don't get me wrong, it was an absolute necessity, this work. People were fleeing persecution, or at least alleging that, and they ought to be protected if they fall within the ambit of the law. No issue about that whatsoever. But from a kind of young African who was very proud about that fact and had been from kind of day one. That's how family was. And notwithstanding so many things that happened in family, but we were brought up to be very, kind of proud as to who we were as individuals. It was like, well, what am I doing as an individual to kind of assist those situations as opposed to just criticize government there? Yeah. So I started just kind of thinking about what's my next move, and my partner at the time was from Tanzania, and we, she was about to start her PhD and so on, and we decided that actually let's give it a go. She wanted to do some her field research in Tanzania, and so we decided to kind of take that hit and to kind of go back home. Now Tanzania is not my country of origin. Femi, as you know, is a very typically Nigerian name, and Nigeria is my background. So, going back to the proverbial home was really that realization of the continent, going back home to the continent, and what that would do. So I went back to Tanzania, and I had visited before that, to kind of really have a look and to engage and to really see where my skills could be deployed. And, I kind of got in there, I was decently connected. So, doors opened fairly rapidly, but not necessarily in my areas of expertise. So yes, as a lawyer, but, the big thing there was corporate commercial law, growing economies in that kind of way. To have a career doing human rights would be difficult, not impossible, but quite difficult, challenging. And there was a lot of, don't get me wrong, there are lawyers doing that work, but coming in as an entry point, some people come in to do NGO type work or civil society type work. And I continued and wanted to continue being a lawyer. So I ended up doing, some of the corporate commercial work, but trying to bring in my kind of vantage point as to how that connects up to the type of law that we're kind of servicing. Yeah. And I, my attempt was to kind of build a niche in that kind of area. That's just the long-winded, I'm about it at the end of the day, so it's long-winded, but that's those were kind of my thought processes in terms of the movement from, a very decent practice in the UK. I'm working with some of the giants in our areas of law. I've mentioned Michael Mansfield, Courtney Griffith QC, Peter Herbert, I could go on, really, really seasoned professionals, lawyers, and so on, who, were inspiring for a lot of us. And helped us to kind of, hone in our trade and want to develop and be strong in that trade as well. So it's about being, to standing up within that trade and within that, seeing it beyond just your profession, kind of really seeing law as a mode to social development and change. And I think that was what was really important, doing that type of law, and then going into the continent, wanting to bring that same verve to the work that I was doing.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I think the background is really important because it's obviously then positioned you for the things you've gone on to do and what you're doing now. So talk to me a little bit about LEAP, which you founded in 2014. Talk to us about sort of what that was about and why you did that, why you put that together.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of fortunate to have a bit of time off to kind of think about kind of next moves. Did some consultancy work, worked with some law firms in TZ, and then kind of took a step back, looked at life, not just work, because lots of things were happening then, don't need to be discussed here. But, and in that, LEAP kind of leapt out, if you like, from discussions I was having with kind of friends in the UK who were wanting to do some certain type of works within the continent, but I knew that expertise was there, but couldn't oftentimes locate it. And so LEAP for me, which stood for Legal Expertise Access Platform, was about how do we showcase the expertise and the brilliance that's on the continent, so that we ourselves know where to locate it, and others, of course, outside of the continent could locate it, and then build a kind of ecosystem around that. So that was the kind of, in a very simplistic terms, that was the kind of thought process behind LEAP. And to be honest, it kind of was almost what's the word, a victim of its own success. And I say that humbly, because we kind of started and we got good funding, and we marched off to a really fantastic conference. We pulled in all kinds of groupings and organizations, corporate, human rights oriented. People said, there's no way you're going to be able to do this. And we did it in our first go. And then, of course, you meet people and people say, yeah, we're really interested in kind of doing this in our kind of arena. Yeah. And that's really how I got into ALN, because ALN were an invited organization to that conference that we pulled off in Dar es Salaam at the Law School of Tanzania, where I was doing some work as well. So then the invitation was, could you help us maybe develop something here along those lines? And then maybe that's a good segue into the kind of ALN kind of journey. But so
ALN is that's certainly when I came across you and started to hear great things about the work that you're doing. And ALN is the academy. ALN is known, but the academy is also very well known, and a lot of that will be down to you, and the work that you've put in. So talk to me about sort of what was the mission and the vision originally for the academy, and then tell us a little bit about what you went on to achieve as part of that.
Well, let me take just a little step back, because what was, I think, really important for me as well was, I'd kind of dabbled in some corporate commercial work, but when I was joining ALN, so ALN, the kind of legal firm entities, and working in Dar es Salaam and Kenya, doing kind of legal work, it was about, the leadership within ALN saying, look, we want you to do this kind of more social oriented kind of work, but you need to know who we are. And we're seasoned, top of the game, if you like, corporate lawyers. And you need to know who we are. So the first stop was not ALN Academy. It was, the drudgery of, corporate commercial work, DDs and regulatory work and all that kind of stuff within Kenya, within Tanzania. And whilst that wasn't necessarily my favorite part of my legal career, it was a necessary part, and it opened my eyes up to a whole load of things, which then informed how I would go about, trying to kind of piece together and encourage and kind of, people to take on the idea of the ALN Academy, which was going to be challenging. It was going to be challenging. I'm grateful for that experience, because it really opened my eyes to a whole load, a very different world. In terms of legal service provision, which is oftentimes a world that, say, the human rights type lawyers don't necessarily see and understand. And so kind of being able to bridge those things together, I think was a really valuable lesson for me. And then when I went into kind of, even conceptualizing ALN Academy and really having to piece that down on paper. That's what I did. I drew up a plan and, the whole business plan and how it should look and feel, and then brought that to ALN to say, is this something that we can do? Now, let me take one step back, because the ALN Academy was not my idea. What came about from it may be how I envisaged it, but ALN wanted an ALN Academy. And so it's like, and I was thinking, I'm sure Cynthia's going to ask me about this. And I was saying, how could I represent this properly? And maybe this is the best way. If you think of somebody wanting a child and maybe not being able to have the child and wanting a surrogate parent, it was somehow like that.
Right.
And I saw it that way. And it was something that they wanted by the time, maybe, their focus was elsewhere, and rightly so. They're corporate commercial lawyers. That's not their area of expertise. I was a human rights lawyer, but very close to the types of entities that ALN Academy could be born out of. So I kind of understood that world in a different kind of way in a moment. So for ALN Academy, I think some of the challenges was bringing about an organization which was going to service a broader community than your immediate constituency is a challenge for, I think all law firms. It would be a challenge for all law firms. And that's why in lots of ways, a lot of credit has to be given to, the leadership at ALN for agreeing to even do something like this. Absolutely. Because, some were like, why are we going to start teaching our rivals? Yeah. Our crown jewels, so to speak. The vision, as far as I was concerned, was about how do we uplift our service abilities within the continent? We've got great individuals. I mean, great individuals who can mix it anywhere. I keep saying this, and I'm not saying it in surprise. It's always been obvious. Yeah. But it needs to be said more and more that we have amazing lawyers, we have amazing professionals, we have amazing people spread across the continent. What we sometimes lack is bringing that together. And that's almost symptomatic of our continent. It's been chopped up, and we can go into some of those issues in a minute. How do we bring, and ALN has done a brilliant job about, conceptualizing, bringing together expertise. So now what we're saying is that outside of just ALN, let's do this for the legal fraternity. Let's do this for a broader constituency. Let's, rise the tide. And I'll mention Karim, who's often said the rising tide. I'll use his phrase, the rising tide. Let's rise up. And if you get it, we all rise. Yeah. So if you think about your jurisdiction developing and getting better work and growing in all kinds of areas, and therefore requiring more and more service operators, one firm, two firms, three firms can't necessarily handle all of that. Yeah, yeah. So you don't want, if you're talking about investment, for example, you don't want a situation where, on one side is a fantastic lawyer, on the other side is fairly mediocre. You don't want that. You want to show your nation, your services in the best possible light, because at the end of the day, that fosters more and more. And I don't mean it in that kind of, growth kind of, that's not my issue about more. It's just that in the sense that we have the ability, then confidence grows outward. And it's as simple as that. And certain people just got that. And I was happy that was able to kind of develop and grow. And don't get me wrong, it was not necessarily easy. Yeah. But at the end of the day, people who needed to get it, got it, and it's grown. And it's grown and it's there. It's an institution now. It's still nascent. But ALN Academy is an institution, and it will go from strength to strength, I have no doubt. Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, it's fantastic what the Academy is doing. I think what you've described is enlightened self-interest. So it looks like it is about capacity building, but actually it's capacity building that then ensures that the cake is grown for everybody, which can only be a really positive thing for the continent. Just moving aside slightly from that. So obviously you've now had this amazing experience of, being pretty well positioned in the UK and experienced here, and, having worked in East Africa and also across the continent. What for you are the sort of the positives and conversely the negatives about working in Africa? What do you think works really well? What do you think doesn't work so well, particularly in the industry and in the businesses that you've been involved in? I tend to kind of focus on positive, but I'll be candid. I think that you can give me a longer answer. Yeah, exactly. No, I think what's exciting is that the imagination is being caught, and I can see in the few years. It's a good few years now that I've been within the continent. The kind of level at which firms are I don't like the word developing. It kind of winds me up a bit. Are progressing, upskilling, using a broad panoply of methods to get across their message. So not just about, we're good lawyers, but being, good community interactors, if you like. And I think that that's positive. So it's not too, you don't want things to become too narrow. And I think that when we align our professional acumen with our kind of communal understandings, we are at our best. And I think the more we do that, the better. On the negative side, I don't know. I think it's disappearing. I think, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I will always be, and I believe always have been. And so the idea that we are breaking down boundaries and really in a real sense, cross-border wise, even within the countries that we operate in, is something that is happening more and more. I think it needs to happen that much more, that we really have to take, the bull by the horns, and we're talking about the African free trade, continental trade area. What does that mean? What does that actually provide for us as lawyers, as individuals, as businesses, and so on? Is it really going to be your small cabal, or are we looking at this continent like a project? This is a project for us to kind of, rally ourselves together and build ourselves together, not just as the continent, by the way. There's 1.3 million of us, billion rather. There's 300 million of us outside of the continent. So that global Africa context is so important for us to really understand and to connect up. And that's, I believe that's happening. And if it's not happening, it's certainly going to be pushed by a lot of us. And I know you're doing that. I'm certainly going to be doing that. And, law firms the messaging is changing. And I think, let me say one thing. And this is no criticism at all, but I think the messaging that I've seen develop over the course of not even that many years, but I would say maybe half a decade, is quite different now than it was then. There was sometimes a tendency not to celebrate Africanness, deeply. Even the colors that you use, the kind of imagery you use on your websites, or, in your paraphernalia or whatever, is changing. And I think that, becoming safer and safer in our spaces, and prouder in our spaces to kind of propel them forwards. Not as, oh, well, this is a fad now because Africa's in vogue, but really saying, actually, you know what? This is a uniqueness to us, and this is beyond branding. This is our identities, individual and collective. And I think that the more that happens, the more confidence we get in what we do. I'm not talking about individual confidence. I can't, if I think of the lawyers I know across Africa, there's no want of confidence. I'm talking collectively now. Because that's what this is about. It's about, our game is not just about our singularity. It's like, how do we compete properly? $4 trillion as a continent might sound much, but it's peanuts. And we have the ability to do way, 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 way more than that, as we've always known. So it's about, how do we actually get that going? So for me, whatever we're doing has to be re-engineered into that Project Africa, Project Global Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And actually that leads us perfectly to now talk about what you're doing. The very exciting hosted, even it's in the title, it's in the tin, right? Hosted in Africa. You couldn't get a stronger identity if you tried. So, talk to us about, you're obviously going to give us a bit of a demo, but talk to us about what this platform is. I think we've already begun to sense the theme that's led you to do what you're doing. But, what is it? What are you hoping to achieve? What do you want the audience to know about this platform?
One of the things that, if I I was interviewed not so long ago, and I was trying to kind of work out what is it about, people and society and nations that we sometimes don't connect up. And what I was saying in there was that sometimes when we look at our individual lives and the individual lives of seeing what they have done to go beyond situations. And, a lot of that's about, a kind of personal imagination of the world you want to create. And, we've often been told is, the limitations are caused by ourselves and what have you. And when I kind of look at the situation that we are in as a continent, I'm like, well, we have the ability to reimagine that and not just reimagine it, to bring it into being. And what do we have to fear? And sometimes it's just about going for it and saying, right, let's do this. This is a space let's create the space.
Yeah.
Let's create the platform. Let's create the network, the spaces that we want, that we say we want, and go for it. And I'm not taking any credit for anything, to be honest, because Hosted in Africa is the culmination of so many voices. It's the culmination of so many situations, so many books, TV programs, movies, experiences that I believe is coming together. And so the fact that, somebody puts it down is just a starting point. So let me move from the I. We want, Hosted in Africa to be an expression of a kind of broad-based togetherness that houses a wide amount of our activities and our value propositions, our value exchanges, and our abilities to say, you know what, this space is something that we can use to propel and to get people kind of active and moving and to support one another. And I think, when the people that I've kind of consulted with, who've inspired me to do this, and who are connected to this, because this isn't a one-person show, have all the excitement, the same level of excitement that, I have, kind of gaining ground. Now, when I asked people to come, I asked you, I said, Cynthia, can you kind of come and have a look? And yeah, let me, you were enthusiastic about it. And others have said that as well and have felt it. And it's like, it's a bit like when we were doing Leap. It wasn't there. It was like, let's do Leap. And it's like, hasn't been there. This isn't there. And so let's create it. Let's be bold. What do we have to lose?
Yeah.
And so it's very ambitious. I have no question about that. No doubt about it in my mind. And, some people will be saying, yeah, whatever. But trust me, this thing is going to work. It's going to work. So yeah, Hosted in Africa, it's the culmination of spaces in the making. And it's got some voice there already. We have like 50 odd people there just in a trial period. And it will be launched fairly soon. And if that 50 is replicated and it grows exponentially, it will do what it needs to do. Because right now I've got professors there, I've got business leaders there, I've got students there, we've got loads of women there, we've got loads of men there. It's like, yeah, this is the complexion. We've got people from the Americas, we've got people from the United States, we've got Europe, we've got the continent of Africa. So global Africa is represented already. And this thing will grow exponentially.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
And we want to be closer. We want to be closer to the activities that we're doing. So often I come across something and I was like, God, I didn't even know that was happening. How did we not know that activity was happening in New York or Brazil or wherever it was? Let's have some spaces that actually, okay, if dance is not your immediate thing, fine, but have some activity that actually, if you need one day to think about, where is there a dance troupe that I want to, send my child to? It's just there. or you're setting up, let's bring it back to the legal kind of frame.
Mm-hmm.
You're a law firm or you're a business and you're having an exchange on the platform and it's going well and you're thinking now of, expanding or kind of connecting or building an entity out of your conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need a lawyer, you need an IP lawyer. It's just across within the same platform. You don't have to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So you could say one-stop shop, but it's more than that because you're saying that you're surrounded by activity that speaks to who we are as a collective. That now for me, that Ubuntu spirit now becomes really important here. Because the Ubuntu spirit, which is saying, you know what, it's not just about me. It's that I am because you are. So when I'm doing my thing, I'm also looking out for you because you inform me. And so it's circular. And our communities, when they work better, and we've had our issues, we know what our issues are historically. But it's about saying we also are empowered. We are empowered to change that.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on a couple of points before we maybe go into this.
Sure.
Our language. And that's why I said that a few moments ago. I don't like that developmental language. We're developing countries. I'm not even sure I like sustainability. Maybe someone would diss me for this and say, what do you mean? Sustainability, development goals. Why shouldn't you, just take to them? And I say it this way. And I'm not saying this with arrogance. I'm saying this in a forthright manner. Africa is the cradle of civilization. I've been to lectures recently and over history, over my time in existence, over the 40 odd years, where you get to understand what we have done as peoples for thousands of years. It's not in every book and it's not in every library, but it's there. And people are documenting this, but not enough of us know and understand this.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about development, I have a young child, he's 2 years old or almost 2, and he's in the developmental stage of his life. Africa is not in a developmental stage of its life.
Yeah.
It's been decimated, yes. So now what is the charge? Is to regenerate.
Yeah, rebuild.
We need to regenerate and bring into being, a kind of new age situation of what Africa has been, because we've seen the civilizations. We know what they have been. As yes, some of them were decimated and wiped from this earth, but we know what we have been. And now it's about regenerating and bringing into being in the 21st century, the African people's kind of situation that we actually want to see. That's not about development. That is about regeneration. So I want, the conversation to shift personally. And so many of us do. Yeah. We're not developing nations. We are regenerating who we are.
Yeah, I completely agree. With not just, it's a spirit, having that intention, just so that we really, and the starting point is us. We have to understand where we've come from, and where we're going to. And this is a journey. And I do agree that we have to be really careful around our language. Talking about language, given that this is a marketing insights session, I'm curious to know what for you is the best, is the best form of marketing for this platform and also for stuff that you've done previously. First of all, how do you want people to kind of get the word out about what you're doing? And do you have any sort of, preferences or advice in terms of the type of marketing that works really well for a professional service organization?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it made me challenge whether that's the correct word or not. But authenticity, I think, is really, really key. Say what you mean. And, if it's veneered, it's kind of thin, deep. So know what it is you want to say and say it with conviction. And I think when that happens, things change. Let me say one thing, and what made me proud, actually, really proud. My last event with ALN Academy was on the Black Lives Matter kind of theme. And, the end word, or one of the end words was coming from, the managing partner of A&K. And he said with conviction that, one of the things that on Africa we need to do is to kind of decolonize the mind. And I was proud, because I tell you what, not many managing partners would brazenly say that, within the context of the business world that we live in. But for me, it was like, yes. And I think it's that conviction that we all need to kind of take on board, to say, this is our story. This is our story. So say it how you want it to be, bring it into existence. So I don't know if, sometimes when I'm writing stuff, I'm writing from the heart, and, people know that I wear my kind of heart on the sleeve to an extent. Don't get me wrong, it has to be professional. Of course. But I want to speak to you, Cynthia. I want you to understand who I am. And what the organization is, and what is it driving at? What is it supposed to do? And if you feel that, then you're more inclined to want to come on board. So, when I've spoken with students or professionals and all the rest, and what they're saying is like, yes. And I'll read something from I won't say who it is on the platform. Somebody, pretty doing some really amazing stuff. I won't say who it is, but the comment they made was like, she said, I can't tell you how good this feels, a feeling of being safe. Powerful. And I was like, wow. And that's what we want. We need to be safe, and we need to be able to express, and we need to be able to say, right, let's strategize, let's come together, and let's build together. Because those straight lines around our continent, we know they're artificial, and it's for us to break them down. And we finally got a rallying call. It might be on a different complexion. The African Free Continental Trade Area can go in different directions. And I think people need to understand that. It can go in different directions. But if it's to be an African paradigm, one that's meaningfully African, then we must take charge of that thing. Because others will. Others will. We have to take charge of it. And it's not, look, this is not like a them against us. No. I'm not into that. I'm too, long in the tooth for that narrative. It's never been a them and us. It's about types. And types are all over the planet. So the point is this, that we understand that if we are trading, if we are exchanging with one another in all kinds of varieties of way, we grow together. Simple as that. It's a simple equation. It's not complicated. And if we don't, then we just remain as an extracted kind of space where entities, people come to enjoy and extract, but actually now they have much greater access. That's the way it could go. And it's for us to say, that's not our story. We don't want that. Create the story you want. And then that's the other thing. So marketing, one of the things that's really important here is that oftentimes our narrative is one of, it's an oppositional narrative. So it opposes what has been. So, I've done a bit of that today, but that also needs to change, where now it's a matter of fact as to where we are going. So I'm not doing this because I need to undo what has happened. We are doing this because this is our journey. It's a forward-looking journey. And it's not dependent on what happened in history. It's dependent on the journey you want. What's and where you want to move towards. That's, and so that messaging is very different than, because we were beaten up, we've got to get together. No, that's not the issue. The issue with our journey is now, and we're looking forward.
Yeah.
and we have a wonderful opportunity to bring ourselves together.
Fantastic. You've whetted our appetite now, really, just to kind of see what this authentic, safe online African space looks like.
I hope you're not disappointed now.
So why not? I mean, can you give us a quick walk through what it looks like? And then whilst you're doing that, Femi, for those, that are not familiar with the platform at all, if you can talk to us about how one gets involved. So if somebody's listening and they're excited about what they're hearing, how can they access this?
So, right. So maybe I just quickly share.
Okay.
Let's get this one here. So I'm showing it as people.
Brilliant. We can see that. Okay.
Will see it as they kind of join. So it's a kind of networking theme, and which also, of course, I don't know if some of your listeners may have seen the website that we launched late last year, which is kind of encompassed, and what we'll be doing sooner rather than later is kind of joining the two. But effectively, it's a networking type of platform, to use that expression. And when you sign on, we've tried to make it as simple as possible. As I said, we're going for a trial stage where we've got about 50 individuals on, just testing things out, seeing how it works, if its functionality is good, if it's logical, intuitive, and so on. So we're getting feedback, and then we're making the necessary adjustments. And then, as I said, in the next couple of weeks, we will then start inviting. So it's an invite-only platform to begin with, because that's probably the safer way to do this. So expect invitations, and we will grant those who are on the platform the ability to invite who they want. So we're not going to restrict that. It will be like, if you believe that you've got friends, colleagues, and so on who could benefit from this platform, you invite them on and grant them the same opportunity. So it's about word of mouth. You're passing this kind of present, this gift onwards. Yeah. So, what can you see? Just tell me. You can see the kind of setup.
Yes, I can see the who's online, hosted in Africa at the top, and then welcome to VA in the middle.
Okay, cool. So this is just a test account. So just quickly, I'll just quickly show you the Hosted in Africa website. So on here, this is taking you now to the website that's been live since last year or so. And this is, a typical website with information and so on. Mm-hmm. And we've got posts and the like. And we hope that people find this pretty interesting as well. If I go back, this is always when
so this is what people can see at the moment if they go to hostedinafrica.com, right?
Exactly. You can get to this page, and there's I can flick through it very quickly, but the main thing, it's a typical type of website with information, with posts and so on it, and fairly static. But it was a kind of an introduction and a segue into what we're going to be doing. And this will continue to be a mouthpiece organ of what we're doing. So, you've got the High Africa Media kind of section of this, which posts out various articles. We've got the news that comes up and keeps people informed. That's a kind of live feed that comes in courtesy of All African News. We've got the next gen kind of, I'm not going to go into all of these pages. People can have a look. We already talked about the VEA on the website previously to kind of give people an inkling as to what's going to be developing. So the story had started then. And Believe is quite an interesting resource where, you click here, I'll quickly do it. You click here, it takes you to kind of map of the continent with speeches, empires, people, quotes, places where you can click on and get a resource. And we'll be building up that narrative and story and inviting people also to be contributing to that. So it's just that, Believe was like, let's know our history. Let's know who's done what over time. Let's know our empires and so on. It's wonderful speeches that have happened. So it's a nice kind of resource. So let me jump off that quickly and go back to the VIA itself. So the VIA is that much more interactive. So it's about now conversation. And to navigate the space is pretty easy. So I'm just kind of quickly showing that the main area is here. You can literally, from this section here, you can pretty much do everything on the site. So you can email invites, your documents, photos, forums, groups, connections, messages, and so on. Yeah. So, typical of how people know social media. It's not going to take you out to anywhere else, but it's repurposing what people know and use currently. And you can also, from this toggle, you can also get to a similar way of being able to navigate, because that's one of the things that we want to ensure that people, when they get on it, we will obviously direct, but we want people to see this as somewhere that they can go on and quickly navigate, and it's intuitive. Yeah. Now, here is a kind of live feed. So this is things that are happening on the site as they are on a daily basis. So people post. And we've seen the Facebooks, we've seen the LinkedIns. It's somehow similar in that kind of way. So functionally, it's similar in that way. And you've got the community of members who are on. They've got the people who are up there already, as I said. And as they post, this comes in the feed. And everybody kind of has access to the general feed. Then you have what we're calling communities. And if I click on here, this now gets into your section where there are discrete groups that can be set up. So we've say, for example, we've got Wisdom Exchange. This will be a group, or this is a group which focuses on dissemination of information and exchange between those in the know and those who are coming up and so on. You've got a Next Gen, which is like a next generation platform. This is actually a private group. So if you click here, you see here, it says you have to request access. Here, this is a free, open, public group. Anybody can join. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a Diaspora Connect. So you click here, you'll get into a group that now is able to host conversation and discussion around the whole issue regarding, the diaspora and its connection with the continent. Yeah. The Arts Corner, for example. So we're not just going all serious. I mean, we want, as I said, a broad panoply of issues, a broad panoply of situations, of topics that really speak to our kind of broadness and our activities across our communities. Yeah. The huts. This is a really interesting one. I think I'll click in this one, because this was set up just a couple of days ago by some of the younger members on the group who said that they wanted to create a platform dedicated to themselves, which would encourage the elders to come on and engage with conversation directly with them. And this is really cool. And that's the thing. I'm not directing this. You come on it and it's your space and you deal with it how you want to deal with it. So we're democratizing it to that extent. And not revealing their names or what have you, but these guys are kind of organizing certain things. They're pulling people on as we speak. They have some university groups that they belong to who are going to be joining the group, and then they will be able to kind of really galvanize their activity. And I want to show one thing, which is a really cool feature on this, is whilst you've got your general feed, so you've got your specific feed for this group.
Right.
That's linked to your own activity, and that's going to just load up and show. So this is the conversations that they've been engaged in, and there's a document that they've shared and so on and so forth. Right. Then you've got like structured discussion. So this is like very random, like postings, daily postings and stuff that they want to quickly share. And then there's the discussions part, which I think is, I'm not sure if they've started this or not, but in discussions you now have structured questions that can be answered in a more structured way. So here they've got the hot classroom. So somebody's asking, I won't click into it because that's their private business, but they've set a question that now the group will go about answering a specific question, and then that goes in a nice flow. So it gives the structure as opposed to the feed, which is just you put what it is in your mind or things that you immediately want to share. And then again, you can send your invites. And I think within the group, the invites will only be able to be sent to members who are already in the platform.
I see.
But as a member, so if I click on this one here, you can actually hear email invites. These are to externals, so persons who are not on the platform. Okay. So you've got either or. So if they notice that there's a group of young persons, because the next gen group is for 30 and unders. Right. So if they notice that, okay, I've seen this person, let's invite them to our group, they can do that internally. Right. And again, messaging, you can send individualized messages or group messages, however you want to do it. So the functionality is just really, really good. And then, there's stuff that they can, the group can have their own photos, albums, and documents that, again, are located specifically for this group. So if you're not part of this group, you can't have access to those materials. Yeah. Okay. And then the feature I think is really cool is that you can have your Zoom meeting within the community that you set up. Right. So I'm just opening that facility here. So I've just clicked on the Zoom link here. You can put your meeting title, description, just how you would do it in a Zoom kind of function.
But all from the same
and then
platform.
Exactly. So it goes out from here, and then you send it out, and then when it's time for people to actually have the meeting, they're brought to the community. And they can log out. They don't have to be on it, but by the time they click on it, it will bring them back in here. Okay. So it's like you're kind of creating a virtual space that's really, really kind of tangible and meaningful in that respect. Yeah. So that's the kind of the community functionality, and then you've got the kind of live discussions, which kind of, so one of the things is that a community can either be a community which just is fairly loosely organized with feeds and so on, or you can have your kind of discussion forums that kind of flow from the community, or you can just have a discussion forum. So a lot of these are either or's. Here again, you've got a private group, and I should mention AI for Africa group, which is, it's fantastic because this was a good example of a group, an entity saying, we want to kind of sample the kind of network, the platform, to see how this works for us as an entity, as a group. So this is a group that you can't just come on and go, and you have to apply to get in. So there's a private group here. Okay. And this group is phenomenal in the sense that, it's a multidisciplinary group of, academics, business leaders, artists, and so on, which are rallying around the theme of artificial intelligence for Africa, and bringing, the person very much in the loop, the understanding that AI, left to its own devices, is not going to properly represent Africa.
Right, right.
I mean, this is a discussion because I'm involved in discussions which, that whole, human in the loop is a much broader question, absolutely. But we need to have a discrete conversation about this. Yeah. And it's really fantastic that a group of, I won't go into the names and stuff, they're in the group, but some really eminent individuals who want to rally around this question, and I'm really just thrilled that they wanted to be on the network and sample it and see whether this is a home that's right for them. Yeah. So yeah, really excited about this.
It looks fantastic. I guess my question, again, just from my own audience's perspective, is if I'm a law firm, how do I leverage this to promote my services? What's the best way to get involved in that sense?
So I would say this, as I said, we have some default groups, if you like, that we've set up, but already from it being set up, other groups have been set up. So the point is, you can come on as an individual, you can come on as an entity, or both, and you can promote and engage in conversation, in connecting, in networking, promoting what you're doing. And by the way, I'm giving you a kind of overview of what we've started. Sure. Some of the things that are coming are really, really exciting. Yeah. And I don't want to give too much away, but this is a platform, as I said, Value Exchange Africa. There's a reason why we're using those terms. Yeah. We want this not just to be about talk. So there's going to be an economic side of this. There's going to be a value exchange aspect of this that's going to come, and it's already integrated, but we're building the story and the narrative. So the whole point now is that you're on there. Look, we have here business exchange, buy and sell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Professional services, open source Africa. So we're already kind of giving you an inkling as to where this is going. We want you to be on here and now exchange with your services.
Yes.
And I don't want to say if, we start getting the numbers, and the numbers that relate to, our various spaces, kind of in that global context, the potential is massive.
Yeah.
So, get on there, create the community you want, be involved in what's there. But if that doesn't fit, it's fine. There's not, it's funny because I'm a lawyer, but I've not put anything particularly legal here in that kind of way, because I'm waiting for somebody to come and do it.
Right.
And that's, if you like, that's a call.
Yes.
And we will start inviting. And that will broaden outwards. And so we want groups, we want individuals, we want law firms in the continent or in the diaspora who see potential here, set up. And you've set up elsewhere, so what's the problem to set up here?
Yeah.
Set up and make this thing work.
And it's free. It's absolutely free to join.
It's free. It's free to join. Yeah. So there's nothing to lose, all to gain for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's been really, really wonderful to see. I had so many other questions that I wanted to ask you, but we've far spent the time that we had. So before we round up, I just want to check if any of our attendees have any questions. If so, please put them in the chat function. If not, we'll shut down shortly. I know one of the things that you talked about is disruptive technologies. So I guess, my final question really is around how you're using that. What kind of disruptive technologies, if you can say, because I know, as you said, there's lots to come, and we'll probably have to have you back in 6 months' time so you can give us an update on where you've got to with it. But talk to us a little bit about sort of the use of disruptive technologies on this platform.
The thing about disruption as well is also about how can you repurpose what's already out there. Sometimes people see disruption as, we've got to create something new. Sometimes you've already got it, but it hasn't been used in a way that it ought to have been used. So that also is about disruption, and that's what we're trying to do here. But in terms of, like, for example, the value exchange, okay, I've kind of said it on the website, so it's not of do it, but as I said, it's not just about us, it's about our community. One of the things that's irked me big time for many a year, and I don't want to say this as a challenge to any FBI or CIA to come and cause me any trouble, okay? Let me make that clear, is the skills, the abilities across the continent are vast, and they always have been, to be honest. But oftentimes they don't get to market, because people don't have the means, or so we say they don't have the means. So what can we do to actually create another way of value exchange? That's why this value exchange proposition becomes all important. Yeah, we might start on fiat currency, but we want to go beyond there. Because if you have value to exchange, you should not be priced out because you don't have any dollars. I don't agree with that, and I don't think anybody does. And so we have to use, it's not just disruptive technology, because actually we're doing it, by the way. Barter type systems and all that. Okay, but how do we bring that into the 21st century, and how do we scale that? I'll leave it there. But that's the proposition as far as I'm concerned. How do we scale that? How do we take that by the horns and say, you know what? Nobody needs to be left behind. That's the thing. We don't need to leave anybody behind, because there's so much value within our societies. And so harnessing that and understanding how we can exchange that to be able to build is where we need to go. And that's not an either or. That's a holistic proposition, because I'm not challenging fiat currency. I still want to have some dollars in my pocket, by the way. Yeah. It's not the point.
Yeah.
It's about saying, if you don't, there's a way to
alternatives, yeah,
beyond survival. There's a way to go beyond survival if you don't, because you have value. That is your proposition, your value, not your dollar.
Yeah.
If we can get to that point and use technology, and we believe we have a nut to crack, and we believe we've cracked it.
Yeah.
We roll that out, and let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
It's our time.
Absolutely. Femi, I'm so enthused. This has been brilliant. I'm really, really just excited about what you're doing, about the platform. I will definitely be investing my time in, I promised already that I will, setting up a group and just engaging in discussion. I love everything that you've said. I think, this is for this time. It's about ownership. It's about authenticity. And just about creating and owning our own spaces. So well done to you for kicking this off. I think we definitely have to have you back in a couple of months' time, just so that you can talk to us about the growth. And I do see this as being something that is going to just grow and evolve. So thank you so much for giving us just a quick peek of what there is at the moment. For those that are interested in hearing more, please do feel free to reach out to Femi directly or to me. We'll provide details after this session, but I'm going to round it up there. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel for those people have actually already contacted me asking for access to this. So I'm sure you'll get lots of views afterwards. But yeah, just want to thank you very much for spending this time with us. And yeah, here's to what's to come with Hosted in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for having me on. And thank you to your audience for listening to me. Let's make many, many things happen.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
And you.